Welcome to A and B Horror Movies video. I'm Aaron, and today I am joined by Ivan Kavanagh. Ivan, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yes, I can't wait to chat with you about your films. First off, Sun, which was a Shudder original. I've got the DVD right here. Congratulations on this movie. Can't wait to
Thanks,
ask you
man.
some questions about this. You also directed Never Grow Old, The Canal, and The Fading Light. I've got a few questions for you about The Canal too, which was also a awesome horror movie. But before we
Sure.
get into the specifics of your films, my first question is, what would you say draws you to the horror genre?
Well, I was always into film. When I was growing up, I liked all sorts of films, not only horror films, but
Mhm.
um, I think with horror, it allows you to push cinema to its limits, to be, for it to be really cinematic and to use sound and picture the way cinema should be used.
Yes.
You can be as experimental as you want, and the audience will usually accept it in a horror film.
Hmm. Hmm.
Where it's one of the last genres as well, where you can still be transgressive. And you can really push boundaries, and people want you to push boundaries in horror films. So, as a person, as an
Absolutely.
artist who loves to push boundaries and experiment with film, it seemed like it was, and it still seems like a natural fit to me.
Excellent. And I think you're very effective in applying some different techniques and different styles from different horror subgenres, which I guess brings me to my next question about Sun specifically. Again, I want to give another shout out. It's on Shudder if you haven't checked it out. Amazing cast. Andy Matichak, I hope I say your last name right.
Yeah.
Emil Hirsch and Luke David Bloom. Excellent film. Give it a watch. So I was just saying that you explore different sort of elements of horror in this film. You've got some vampire elements. There's definitely a cult element, and there's also, I guess, the major theme I would say is the aspect of a parent will do anything for their child, and that carries through the entire film. When you were writing this and directing it, did you always want to sort of pull in different elements of different horror subgenres?
That part of it, I think, was unconscious. I think for me, it always starts with somewhere very personal, and it needs to start for somewhere very personal. And for me, it started with the birth
Hmm.
of my first son. He had a very difficult birth, and for the first few months of his life, we were very worried about him.
Oh, of
And
course.
it's then, as a natural warrior and a slightly neurotic person, a fearful person, I began obsessively thinking about, is he going to be okay? Is he going to be okay? And it was like this
Mhm.
knot in my stomach all the time. And a cure for that was for me to start writing. Like always, it's like therapy almost for me. And as we were raising our first child, our first baby, I could see how close him and my wife were becoming. I think, and
Mhm.
the bond between mother and child is much stronger than between father and child. I mean, I love my son; we're very close, but between mother and
Absolutely.
son, it's something unspoken. It's different. It's a different love, and I could see how close they were becoming. And
Mhm.
I was thinking, is there anything a person, including me, wouldn't do to protect their son if they were ill, or what wouldn't you do? And that for me was the starting point. And I hope that runs through the film as well. It's just like this uh, emotional through line all the way through it, where you feel her pain because how
Mhm.
much she loves her son, and all the horror elements are just um a way to take us through the story. I don't want to belittle the horror elements because I love that, but that was an
Mhm.
unconscious way of getting us through the story. And for me, films are kind of like music, where it's more about the emotions than the plot, and it's about
Absolutely.
atmosphere rather than plot. And plot is
Mhm.
just something just to take us from A to B. And
Yes.
that was the starting point, rather than me saying I'm going to explore different subgenres of horror in this. I would never think like that.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Um, Speaking
Although
of,
I am aware, of course, as being a horror fan, what subgenres are, and I can see
yes,
it now.
yes.
I watched it for the first time the day before yesterday, and for the first time in a couple of years, and
Mhm.
I could see the influences were on the film, and I could see the subgenres, and I could see myself having fun with the plot as well, and having fun with the subgenres, and I think there's a lot of humor in there as well as emotion, I'm really proud of the film. I actually, after watching it a couple of years, I like it even more than when I made it.
And you should be. Congratulations! It's an amazing film. It's one of my favorite Shudder originals to come out in the last few
Oh,
years.
thanks.
And speaking of sort of the atmosphere, and there's supernatural elements too that really come out in the final
Yeah,
act. There's the one scene when I don't want to give anything away if for those who haven't seen the film, but the one scene where she's sort of conjuring something. Let's leave it at that.
yeah.
Is perhaps one of the creepiest moments in the film. Um, when you were shooting that scene, did you feel in the moment like this is working really well? Um, and how did that come about? I guess is my question.
Yeah, but we were lucky in a way because it was a road movie of sorts. We shot it pretty much in sequence, which which of course you don't often do get that opportunity with films. So we planned the locations that we would shoot out, the initial locations at one location, and then pretty much go on the road.
Yes.
Logistically, it was pretty difficult, but it was great for Andy's and Luke's performances. So by the time we got to that sequence, we shot that towards the end of the film. As this scene you're talking about, where it's at the end of the film as well, towards the end of the film,
Yes.
Andy was completely in the moment, and
Hmm.
I knew as I was watching it that she had completely nailed it and the emotions of it, and it turned out to be one of the easiest scenes to shoot, and we did it completely practically. The demon was there; it was all practical makeup. I had
Oh, fantastic.
storyboarded the whole sequence beforehand, so it pretty much, out of all my films, I usually storyboard most of the film or talk
Hmm.
through most of the film with the cinematographer beforehand. And this is the one that came out closest to what I had imagined when I sat down with my pen and paper and started to storyboard it. So I could feel that I could feel the atmosphere, and I could feel the tension, and I could feel that scene in particular was working.
Yes, the stars aligned and it showed. That scene is incredible. Speaking, you mentioned storyboarding. Speaking about your creative process from writing to directing the entire, beginning to end. Can you say a little bit about what is your creative process?
Well, I mean, I usually write the first draft really quickly.
Hmm.
I think I wrote the first draft of Sun in like in 2 or 3 weeks or something like that.
Oh wow.
It was during usually 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning when I was getting up, changing diapers and stuff. My son was just little, and I was writing like
Yes.
that. It was in between. I didn't bother going back to sleep because I knew I'd be awake 2 hours later. And
Right.
then I usually show the first draft to my producer at the time. My producer at the time was Anne-Marie Nocton, an Irish producer. And then
Mhm.
she'd give notes, and then I think we got some funding from Screen Ireland, and they gave notes. But I'd say the first draft is really close to what we ended up shooting. So and then but the getting into production was fairly difficult. I think we it took about a year to get the funding together, which is not actually it's not that's not too bad. I've gone much longer with other films, and then it was down to finding American co-producers and where to shoot, and then we chose Mississippi, and then a few months before I went to Mississippi and looked at locations, and then we began shooting in Mississippi and found amazing locations there. There was a great crew there,
Oh yeah.
and I had the atmosphere that I was after, that Southern Gothic atmosphere, which was absolutely
Hmm.
perfect. And that the
Completely agree.
yeah, it was just perfect, the locations. But we had a bit of a setback during the shoot when the film started off as a non-union film, and the budget
Hmm.
was about $3 million. And then
Okay.
about, I say, halfway through the film, yeah, perhaps halfway through the film, we got flipped, as in we became a union film. So all of a sudden, I lost about 1/3 of my budget. I say, well, a huge chunk of my budget. So I had to
Oh
start
gosh.
cutting back on the script. I had to start rewriting the script as we were shooting because we couldn't afford a lot of the stuff that I had written all of a sudden.
Mm.
But it kind of helped the film in a way. I was often writing on the way to the set in the car, handing the actors the pages when I got there.
Yeah.
and I had to change my initial conception of the film as well visually, because there were certain lenses and stuff that we suddenly couldn't afford, which is the first time that has ever happened to me.
Oh, that's
And
too bad.
I had conceived of a series of zooms in the film. We couldn't afford to zoom, but that turned into a
Mm.
tracking shot then. But it all worked out in the end. And then, as I remember, as I was leaving Mississippi, the pandemic hit, and I remember people on the plane were talking
Yeah.
about this mysterious illness. So all of a
Hmm.
sudden, I had to do the post production remotely. I never saw my editor except on the screen like
Oh, yeah.
this, so that was
Yes.
really difficult to get used to. And yeah, so it was an arduous shoot, but it worked out in the end. They always are, I suppose.
Of course, of course. That's amazing. I didn't realize you filmed it in Mississippi, but I guess now that you mention it, that makes sense. Yeah, COVID did certainly change things, but I think this was one of the first movies to come out early on in COVID,
It
right?
was, yeah.
How long
I
was the
think.
editing process?
Oh, the editing was really quick, and as quick as
Mhm.
I ever had. I think it was only 6 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. I could have
Oh,
done
wow.
with another month or so. I mean, but then again, I'd go on forever if I could. Probably still editing if they had the money to keep going. But you have to let it go
So,
sometime.
of course, of course.
Yeah, but the pandemic did hurt us for the release. I think. I think we were
Mm,
people were completely thrown about what to do, what's best to do for the film. Should we wait until after the pandemic to release it? But we didn't know how long that would be.
of
Should we
course.
relate? Should we wait until cinemas reopen? And but when will they reopen? And will people go back? So there was all these unanswered questions. There was no festivals at the time, and there
Yeah,
was one
theaters
fact:
closed. Yeah.
everything was closed. And there was remote
Mhm.
festivals and stuff, but that's not quite the same. And then some people wanted to wait, others wanted to release during the pandemic. The thought being that people were starved for films to see in the few cinemas that were open. And that's the one we eventually went
Excuse me.
with,
Okay.
which turned out, I think, to be the wrong decision, because nobody was going to the cinema at the time, so very few
Mm-mm.
people saw it. A lot more people, of course, saw it later on in the year when it went to Shudder. But it was pretty
Mhm.
much released with, it was a little publicity, but not enough. So not enough people heard about it, and which is really a shame. I mean, I would have killed
Mhm.
for a
Agreed.
publicity campaign like Long Legs or something like that, which is
Oh, yeah.
the
Amazing.
publicity
Yes.
campaign for that is absolute genius, in my opinion. That's the genius part of that film, is the publicity. It's just amazing. We could have done, if we had one third of that, I think we could have done much better. But saying that, I mean, the film did
Yeah.
get to a lot of people on Shudder. I'm still being contacted by people who are constantly rediscovering it, and the
Mhm.
people who love it really love it and get it. And it finds its audience eventually. But initially, we
Yes.
could have done with a bit more push on it, I think.
Well, I'm a fan, as you know. Yeah, it's too bad the timing wasn't ideal, let's say. But like you said, it's found an audience. I watched it. I remember watching it for the first time. I didn't know anything about it, and I loved it. So there you have
Thanks.
it. I also watched The Canal recently, which is a very creepy little film. Also has a parent-child dynamic throughout. One thing I really liked about it is sort of the editing. There's some really fantastic
Yeah,
edits with like some creepy images. Um, what was it? I don't want to take up too much of your time, but what was it like making that film? I guess in
that was it.
comparison to Sun in
Well, that was even
2014,
more.
right?
That was 2014. Yeah, that was even more
Hmm.
difficult because I think it was, we had about, I think the budget was $800,000 or something like that. It was, and we had less than 4 weeks to shoot it.
Oh my gosh.
It was just an insane shoot. It was a shame. I didn't have time to think. I just had to keep shooting. Luckily, I had planned out most of the shots in the film, and had done years of planning. It was about 2 years of planning beforehand. So if I hadn't had done
Mhm.
that, I would have been in deep trouble. But yeah, that shoot was difficult. I still remember how difficult that was. I mean, you weren't sure whether I was getting what I wanted because we were moving so fast. But the
Mhm.
initial idea for that was, with the editing style that you're talking about, was because he was a film archivist.
Yes.
His breakdown, in my mind, would have been influenced by film as such.
Mhm.
So when his visions, whatever, are filmic, very consciously filmic, you know. So I was trying to draw attention to
Yes.
the artifices of film, like you know, quick cuts, subliminal shots. There's a few subliminal shots of the demon in
Hmm.
Sun as well. There's three or four of them, and and quick cuts to projector films going around the film and the
Yes.
projector going around. Very
Hmm.
uh, uh, abrupt cuts as well, always drawing attention to the fact that you're watching a film and you're watching a film about a person who's obsessed with films at the same time and probably obsessed with horror films as well. So that was one that
Hmm.
purposely wore its influences on its sleeve. So I heighten color like I love in Argento films, and very
Yes.
purposely, and but again, that film started from a very emotional place as well. It was the emotions of
Okay.
it were the most important, and I was always fascinated by these reports in the news. It was always you know, the husband had murdered the wife, and people were always saying, "But he was such a lovely guy. We didn't
Mm.
ever suspect he would be capable of something like this." You know, as if evil, the way we're meant to believe is evil shows its face as in something ugly. But what if it
Yeah.
comes in an attractive package, like the main protagonist in our film? You know,
Mm-hmm.
that
Hmm.
the guy has evil in him, is capable of evil, but he's an attractive, seemingly charming guy. You know,
Yeah.
um, and
Very effective.
that was the
Hmm.
starting point for that. Another thing as well that I always about that film that always annoyed me a little bit about for it got very good reviews, but some critics of it said it was too predictable that you knew that the husband did it. But for me, it was never about who did it. The film, it was always about watching a man realize that he did it, if you know what I mean. And in fact,
Yes.
in the film, there's a dream sequence about 20 minutes in it, which shows him murdering his wife. So it purposely, I wasn't trying to hide it from the audience that he did it. I was trying to
Yes.
watch him realize the horror of what he's done, you know. And then at the
Yeah.
end of the film, in the last 20 minutes or so, he's confronted by the true horror of what he did, and
Oh,
the
absolutely.
imagined horror. You know, he's
Hmm.
confronted
Hmm.
by he's confronted by what should be a beautiful scene of his wife giving birth with a scene of horror of his of what he did. You know,
Yep.
the only way she's going to give a birth now is she gives birth when she's dead, which is not going to happen, of course. But in his mind, it is, and yeah, for me,
Oh, it's
it was all.
horrific. Yeah, some amazing scenes. His downward spiral, that's the focus. And like you said, you kind of know that he did it. I don't think we're ruining the film for
Yeah,
anyone.
and the
Um,
detective says it. I mean, it's always the husband, you know. Yeah.
exactly, with sort of a smirk, right? Um, anyway, The Canal is another fantastic film. It's I rented it on Shudder. I mean on Amazon. It's on Prime if you want to check it out. And Sun is on Shudder. I do have some sort of general questions for you, which I think, well, I hope
Sure.
are fun. First up, what is your favorite horror movie?
Yeah, I don't know whether I can. It's very hard to pick a favorite. I have
I
about
know it's a tough
25
one.
favorites, and it depends on what month of the year as well. You know, years ago I would have said The Shining, but it's
Hmm.
probably too predictable
Yes.
now. And to be honest with you, I think all of the films that quoted now, like the Spielberg film with you see the
Hmm.
Shining corridor and stuff, have kind of cheapened it a little bit in my mind. But you
Yes.
know, I don't think if Kubrick was alive, he would have ever allowed any of that.
Hmm.
However, it's still a great film. But I'll pick something else that I think deserves. Maybe it is since then, but I think it deserves better
Can't wait.
recognition. Is Sam Raimi's Drag Me to Hell,
Oh
and
yeah, that's a great film.
yeah, yeah, it really is, and it's a really clever, subversive film as well. It seems on the
Yeah.
surface, and it is very fun film. It's fun, and it's full of just some goofy moments, and
Hmm.
it's very suspenseful and absolutely terrifying. But at the
Yes.
heart of it, it's really which is unusual, I think, for American films. It's more
Hmm.
common in European films. It's about class, you know. It's about this girl trying to make her way up in society, and it's called Drag Me to Hell. And I think at the beginning of the film, she's already in hell. She's with this spineless boyfriend who won't stand up to her his mother because his mother is this snob who doesn't want to talk to
Right,
her because
right.
she's just this regular farm girl, and then you have she's certain work, and in work she has this boss who seems to have no feelings, and pretty
That's
much forces
that's so
her
good. Mhm.
into foreclosing on this poor old woman who just wants an extra couple of months, so because she's been sick, you know. And I don't think the real
Yes.
villain of the piece at all is Mrs. Uh,
Oh,
Greenwich.
the
Is that her
old
name? I
woman.
think it's
Yeah,
Greenwich or something like
I
that.
think
Yeah,
so.
yeah. She's just a woman
Excuse
who's
me.
being pushed to the limits, and she's a woman with these powers who just says, "I have had enough of you bastards. You know,
Hmm.
I'm going to get revenge on you." And she just happens to pick this employee, you know,
Yes.
who's who's been forced into this position by her boss, who wants her to do the right thing for the business, but not the right thing for the woman, you know.
Hmm.
And
Fantastic.
he's the one that makes her sell her soul, not Mrs. Greenwich, you know. And she just gets
Yeah.
her revenge in her own way, you know. And
Yeah. It
even the young
doesn't
woman as
end
well.
well.
No, not at all. And even the young woman is in I can't remember her name, the main protagonist, and she's brilliant in it.
Oh,
Even
Loman, right?
Alison
Her last
Lohman,
name.
yeah, she's so
Yes.
great. I don't know why she wasn't in more stuff after, but she's really great. And
Yeah.
you really
Perfect
pity
role for
her,
her.
and you follow her, and you see how strong she is, and she's a great protagonist. But at the same time, she
Hmm.
is kind of guilty at the same time because she did make that choice, and I suppose she does
Yes.
represent all those people throughout history who said, "I was just following orders. I was just doing what I was told to do," you
Yeah,
know.
you
But
can't blame me, right?
you can't
Exactly.
blame
And
me.
it's
And what
and
if
then the envelope, right? What is it? The button
the button
and the
and the
coin.
coin? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
a
Oh, that's
fantastic
great.
ending. It's so
Oh,
great.
perfect. Right. And isn't her boyfriend Justin Long? Isn't he
Yeah,
that actor?
he is the face of Apple
He's
computers. He is the face of this corporate world,
yes.
you know,
That's
which
right.
is
Yeah, yeah.
really clever
And
casting, you know.
it's one horror movie he's in that he doesn't die horribly. Isn't he
That's
still
true. Yeah,
alive
yeah.
in
He watches her die horribly at the end.
it? Yeah, of course. Yeah. Let's see.
And
That's a great choice.
it's really satisfying film, and I watch it
Mhm.
once or twice a year now. I think it's great.
Yeah, maybe I'll rewatch it this weekend. Let's see. Is there someone in the film industry, if you could sit down with and have a coffee, alive or dead, who would you choose?
I just there's probably a couple. I always wanted to meet him because I always felt he didn't get
Mhm.
his due in life was Toby Hooper,
Mhm.
and I think he was more
Excuse me.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think is an absolute masterpiece, but he made some really interesting films after as well, and he didn't get any respect, you know,
Mhm.
which is really a shame. And I always felt I'd like to sit down and just have a chat with him. You know, he seemed a really intelligent, sensitive guy. Probably too sensitive for this industry,
I
and
think so.
he was always pushing things and trying different things in his films. He had amazing sense of humor in his films as well. So Toby Hooper is certainly one I would have loved to have
That's
met.
a great choice. Yeah, same here. Didn't he do Eaten Alive in the 70s? Wasn't that him as
Eaten
well?
Alive is fantastic. I
I
love Eaten
love that
Alive.
film. I just watched it rewatched it a couple weeks ago. Great movie.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so it's like a nightmare or something. It's the way that is set
Hmm.
on these sound stages really adds to the nightmarish
Yes.
element of it. It's like
Yes.
this sitcom that is turned into a nightmare or something. You know,
Oh yeah,
it's
absolutely.
he has
And
all
then
these
a
heightened colors
fantastic
and
cast too. Um,
amazing.
the
What's
young Robert Englund is in that.
that's right, that's right. What's
Janice.
the crazy guy in it? What's his name? The guy who runs the motel. The actor's
Mm,
name. He's really great.
I have it somewhere here.
It's an absolutely unhinged
The
performance, but he's
name
really fantastic.
escapes me. Here we are. That's the Arrow edition. Of course, it doesn't say. I don't know.
Oh, that's the Arrow one. Yeah, I have that one as well. It's great. It's beautiful transfer.
Aren't they nice editions? Yeah. Let me see. Seems I have a DVD on it too.
Oh wow, I have that.
Um,
I have multiple copies of films in different formats.
yeah, me too. Like, I love Halloween.
I
I have
still
a
have
bunch of Halloween movies.
hundreds of VHS back home as well
Oh,
in our
cool. That's amazing. So you're a fellow collector,
yeah.
movie collector. Is Neville Brand? Does that sound right?
Oh, Neville Brand. Yeah, it's absolutely unhinged performance. You know, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh yeah, completely. Marilyn Burns from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I know Janice
Yeah,
Blythe is in it from
yeah.
Hills Have Eyes.
And all of his films have
Um,
great sound designs as well. Eaten Alive has this amazing sound design, and of course, Texas Chainsaw Massacre has has one of the best soundtracks
Yes.
ever. You know, it's amazing.
Yep. And come to think of it, I actually just watched for the first time the Toolbox Murders remake from 2004, I believe, and I think he directed that.
Yeah, there's some
Yeah.
great scenes in that. It's really amazing. So even in a not very good film like Mortuary, I think, did you make that one, Mortuary? Yeah,
I
there's amazing
think so.
scare scene in that where she's working on one of the bodies, and it's
Yeah.
like almost Hitchcockian build up of shots, you
Yes.
know, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden one of the other bodies is standing behind her. It's terrific, you know.
Great film. All right. Well, let's see. What's your one last question? What's your favorite film of 2024 so far?
Um, the one that I've watched a couple of times, I haven't watched that much now. I need to catch up, but the one I really liked on Shudder was and I think maybe it did get a lot of respect. I don't really know. It's
Mhm.
called You'll Never Find Me. Have you seen it? It's an Australian film.
Yes.
It's a
Yes, I did.
two-hander.
The guy in the
Um,
trailer and the girl
in the
shows up,
trailer, yeah,
and it's just
and
the
I think
two characters. Yeah, that was
that's
good.
right. It's absolutely terrific film.
Mhm.
It's beautifully made, beautifully directed. It's two directors. I can't remember their names right now, but the sound design is just so atmospheric.
Yes.
It's this constant storm going outside.
Mhm.
And as a director, I know how difficult it is to stage things in that enclosed environment, and to do it, sustain it for a whole film is really, really difficult. And it takes an enormous skill to do that. And the two performances are just
Oh,
amazing.
fantastic.
So just so great, and they're so committed, and it's quite moving as well, and terrifying, and
Mhm.
the build up of suspense, and your allegiances are constantly thrown between the two. You're never sure of
Yep.
what is happening. Is she
What's really
imagining
happening?
things? Is he?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really
Mhm.
terrific, and I've watched that one twice. I think it's really great. That's the best
Oh,
film
it's a
I've
great
seen in
movie. Yes,
2024.
and great choice. I love that one too. And the big reveal at the end is very orchestrated, very well. All right. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but we do have a this or that section we like to do where I basically just
Okay,
say two things. You just pick one or the other. No pressure, whatever comes to mind.
okay.
Let's see. Cult thrillers or slashers?
Cult thrillers.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah, cult
Um,
thrillers.
let's see. Cookies or crisps? Notice I said
Oh,
crisp and not
yeah,
chips.
yeah, cookies,
Okay, cool. Let's see. Spider films or snakes?
spiders.
Yeah, I'd pick spiders too. Beer or wine?
Oh, wine.
Wine. Waffles or pancakes?
Can I have both?
Yes, fair enough. Let's see. Jason or Freddy?
um, Freddy. Oh, some
That's
Freddy.
tough.
Very select Freddy.
Some, yes, I'll take that.
I like
Uh,
the first one, the second one, and the New Nightmare. Those are the ones I like.
yeah, oh, those are good. Let's see. Remakes or prequels?
Hmm. Some remakes, yeah. Some remakes are
Some
good.
remakes. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Facebook or Instagram?
I hate them both, but I'll go with
Hate
Instagram.
them both. Oh, I love that. Let's see. Horror comedy or dark comedy? I guess they're kind of the same.
Yeah, a dark horror comedy maybe.
Yeah, there you go. Let's say both. Alien invasion or zombie apocalypse?
Oh, zombie apocalypse for sure.
Yeah, yes. Jaws or Halloween 78?
Oh, Jaws.
Jaws. Okay. Let's see. Well, actually, I forgot to mention that Ben couldn't make it today. My co-host, he apologizes and would have liked to have been here with us. This has been an amazing chat. Let's see. Can you tell us a little bit about your upcoming projects?
Yeah, I have. I'm attached to three films. I have two in development, so they're still being written and by the writers. I'm not writing them, and I've one just going out to financing.
Oh, very cool.
So hopefully by the end of the year we'll have an announcement on that one. And all three are horror films. I can't really talk about them other than that,
Excellent.
but they are horror films. So one of them will crop up by the end of the year shooting.
Can't wait. You'll have to keep us updated. Um, let's see. Lastly, how can folks find you on social media?
I hate social media, so I got rid of my Facebook and I
Okay.
got rid of my Twitter, and the last remaining one, which I've just joined, is Instagram. So I have no idea what
Excellent.
it is. I'm sure if you just search for me, you'll find me or something. Whoever you do these
Yes,
things.
yes, and that's how I found you. Well, again, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I love your movies. Check out Sun on Shudder, The Canal on Amazon, and we can't wait to. I can't wait to hear about your future projects and keep us
Thanks a
updated
million.
when they get released.
Will do.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Well, thank you. Head on over to YouTube, check out A&B Horror Movies, like and subscribe because it helps our channel. And thanks for watching. Bye, everyone.
Bye.